Hi there, and welcome to Lecture 2 of Unit 7. Today we're going to continue on with the decade of the 1920s, and our topic today is going to be politics. We're going to analyze how the Republicans gained control back of politics in America after the progressives and Democrats had gained some momentum and made some pretty sweeping changes in terms of the role of government in business and society. So today we're going to focus on politics of the 20s. In 1920, Warren Harding was elected. He was a Republican, and again, Woodrow Wilson had served 2 terms, and prior to that, you had 2 pretty moderate Republicans, definitely moderate in Teddy Roosevelt and also William Howard Taft. Harding was elected, and the first thing that occurred while he was in office was another scandal. Remember, scandals that had occurred in the late 1800s had split the Republican Party. And here the Secretary of the Interior accepted some bribes in the Teapot Dome scandal, in which he sold reserves that were supposed to be set aside for the United States Navy to an oil company, an American oil company. The role of government, the Republicans decided, was to make businesses profitable, and they believed that that was through less interference rather than more interference, which the progressives and the Democrats had believed in.
Taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way. We've been taking care of business, it's all mine. Taking care of business, and I've been working overtime.
Here the Republicans come up with one of their most popular beliefs, and it's called trickle-down economics. And this is a philosophy of the Republicans that is still evident today. And it's completely opposite of what the progressives had been doing in the last 20 years. So the first part of it was they wanted tax cuts to the rich. Remember, the progressives wanted a graduated income tax, and they actually achieved that with the 16th Amendment. They wanted the rich to pay more in an attempt to equal out society a little bit. The Republicans believe the opposite. They believe that if you gave tax cuts to the rich, then the rich would have more money to spend, to stimulate the economy, create jobs, grow businesses, and so forth. Now, they believe the way to make up for this loss in revenue by giving the rich tax cuts was higher tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods. They wanted to cut federal spending, especially programs to help citizens that had been established through the progressive philosophy, welfare, unemployment, things of this nature. And the ultimate goal would be to reduce the national debt by spending less. Trickle-down economics has been tried many times, and unfortunately, it has never really been all that successful. You can see by this map here, the election of 1920, the majority of the country voted Republican, except the South here, which continued to vote Democratic. Warren Harding actually died while in office of natural causes, and his vice president, Calvin Coolidge, took over, and he was also a pretty conservative Republican. 2 things I want to address while Coolidge was in office. He continued the trickle-down approach and less government involvement in business. But foreign policy-wise, the United States decided through the Dawes Plan to make some loans to Germany. Germany's economy was struggling because of the Treaty of Versailles, and the United States felt some sympathy for Germany. So through the Dawes Plan, the United States loaned money to Germany so Germany could make their payments, war reparations to the Allies. Also, there had been an attempt through the 1920s at disarmament, and the Kellogg-Briand Pact was kind of the final step in that process. 62 nations signed this agreement outlawing war except for defensive purposes. It sounded good, but not all that realistic, and it really would have little, if any, impact in preventing World War II from breaking out. Again, the election of 1924, same thing as the election of 1920. Again, this decade of the 20s was dominated by Republicans. In 1928, Herbert Hoover was elected. He took over in 1929. He was another staunch Republican. He would be in office when the Great Depression broke out, the stock market crashed, kind of probably would be blamed for this. The things that caused the Great Depression happened over time. It's not like they happened overnight. Really, Hoover didn't do anything to bring about the Depression. But at the same time, he didn't do much once it occurred to alleviate some of the problems. And that was a simple Republican philosophy that the government was going to stay out of business, and, economic cycles occur and they take care of themselves.
Words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Again, in the election of 1828, even more of the country voted Republican. You can see very few states, only 6 or 7, voted for the Democratic candidate, who was Smith. Well, while Hoover was in office, all of the things that had been occurring to the 20s compounded upon one another. The buying on margin of stock, and all the installment buying that had taken place. The economy had been prospering. People had been spending maybe beyond their means, and Black Tuesday occurs. The stock market was relatively new, and people didn't really know how to deal with a downturn in the market and the economy. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped from even over 261 to 41 in a short period of time, and $25 billion in stock disappeared immediately. That was problem number one. People panicked. They began to sell their stocks, which led to further dropping of the prices. Buying on margin was a major problem that compounded this problem significantly. Buying on margin is when people would basically take out loans to buy stock. That's kind of like taking out or buying lottery tickets on your credit card. If the lottery's $50 million and you say, I'm going to have a great chance to win, I'm going to go buy 10,000 lottery tickets on my credit card, that's great if you win. And people that were buying stock on margin, when the stocks went up, that was great. They were able to pay it back. But as soon as the stock market crashed, you not only had people losing money that they'd invested, but also people losing money that they had borrowed from the bank, and the bank had loaned out money that people had invested in the bank or deposited in the bank. And so this compounded problems and made the situation much worse. The stock market crash was a short-term cause of the Great Depression. It wasn't, the only cause. It, along with many of the things that were happening during the 20s that we'll take a look in the next lecture, when we take a look at long-term causes of the Great Depression itself, those things coupled with one another led to the severity of the Great Depression. And also that President Hoover and the Republicans believed that the economy would take care of itself, so they didn't really take any action early on when this first occurred.